Have you ever really stopped to think about how power works? I mean, yeah, there's force, there are laws, there's money, but what if the strongest tool of control isn't any of those things? What if it's just an illusion, a performance, carefully put together to make you see exactly what they want you to see? Well, today, we're pulling back that curtain. And this quote? This is the key. This is the whole game right here. It's pretty cynical about people, for sure, but it's the bedrock that the entire structure of power is built on. It makes one giant bet that most of us are just too busy or too lazy to look any deeper. And that bet? Well, that's what makes the whole performance so incredibly powerful. Okay, so how do they control the surface? Simple. They create this overwhelming illusion of being good, of being virtuous. It's all about managing perception, and this strategy actually has a name. We're going to call it the moral costume. So what is the moral costume? Think of it like a mask. It's the public face of virtue that a leader wears. They look merciful, they seem faithful, they appear honest. But here's the kicker. Its real job is to hide the fact that to hold on to power, a ruler sometimes has to be the complete opposite of all those things. But you gotta be asking, why does this even work? I mean, come on, people aren't that easily fooled, right? Well, the thing is, the moral costume works because it taps into a fundamental glitch in our own psychology. Look, our brains are wired to take shortcuts. It's just so much easier to judge someone by how they appear on the outside than it is to do a deep dive into every single one of their actions. And the moral costume is tailor-made for that instinct. It gives us a simple, shiny, virtuous surface to look at, so we don't bother digging for the complicated and often ruthless reality underneath. And this just shows you the numbers. The vast majority of people are going to judge a leader based on the show they put on. The tiny group that actually does the homework and digs deeper, they're usually just drowned out. For anyone in power, it's a numbers game. And if your costume convinces the majority, you've pretty much already won.
So if you were going to build one of these things, what are the ingredients? What's it made of? Turns out there are 5 essential fabrics you need to weave together to make a believable mask of a saint. You see the pattern here, right? Mercy, faith, honesty, kindness, integrity. These are things we all admire. So by projecting all 5, a leader creates this powerful halo effect that's really hard to argue with. It's the whole wardrobe designed for one thing: public adoration. And this, right here, this is the part you absolutely have to get. It is not about actually being merciful or honest. It's about being seen as merciful and honest. In the cold, hard math of power, actually being virtuous can get in the way, but the appearance of virtue, that's your most valuable tool. It's all just part of the show.
So why go through all this trouble? Why create this elaborate costume in the first place? Well, it's because of what the costume allows you to do behind the scenes, in the shadows, where the real work of power gets done. And here's where you see the stark difference. The public mask of mercy and kindness, it hides a private readiness to be ruthless. That appearance of deep faith, it covers a cunning and calculating mind. And that projection of pure honesty, it's the perfect camouflage for when you need to be deceptive to get what you want. The costume isn't who they are, it's the camouflage they wear. And that's the strategic genius of it. While everyone is out front clapping for the projected virtues, for the light, the real, messy business of power, which often involves some pretty tough calls, can happen back in the shadows, completely unnoticed. And you should never, ever forget this. Every single piece of this performance, every thread in that moral costume, every public hug and handshake, it all serves one and only one goal: to get and keep power. That's the end that justifies all the theatrical means. So, we've seen how the mask is made and why it's so effective, which leads to the big question. How do we become one of those people who can actually see through it? How do we start to spot the cracks in the performance? All right, here's your toolkit. First, just look for the gap between what they say and what they actually do. Be a little suspicious of anyone who seems a little too perfect. Real virtue is messy. Always ask yourself, cui bono, who really benefits from this act of kindness? And definitely pay attention when they use the word necessity to excuse something brutal. That's usually the moment the mask starts to slip. If you're going to remember one thing from all this, make it this: watch their hands, not their mouth. Words can paint a beautiful, virtuous picture, but actions, the policies, the results, the consequences, that's what tells the real story. The words are the costume, the actions are the reality.
So, now you know the secret. The next time you see a leader getting praised for their perfect character, just ask yourself, am I looking at the real person, or am I just admiring a really well-made costume? Now that you know how the trick is done, will you be able to see the cracks in the mask?